Marvel's Avengers. I think it's fairly obvious that the game is in a very rough place. If you go to Metacritic, you'll see a Metascore of 67 and a user score of 5.1, a rather middling reception for an Avengers AAA title. And in a previous video, I pointed out how the player base of Marvel's Avengers is quickly diminishing. So right here, we're seeing players up to 2,000 in 24-hour peaks, but we also see them descending quite a bit. At one point, the player base reached a measly 688 players, which is not a good sign at all. And the player base is dwindling fast enough that the game is beginning to experience matchmaking problems, not only on PC, but even on the PS4 version where most players are, which all indicate that the game's kind of starting to die, and unless Crystal Dynamics really pulls things together and really bolsters the game soon, I'm afraid the fate of the game will be sealed, as has happened time and again with other live services that launched in a rough state, incomplete, unpolished, though the developers have expressed in a "we are listening" statement, which is typical for a roughly launched live service, how they're confident that they'll see PC players as well as those on Xbox One and PlayStation 4 return to the game as we add exciting new late-game content and demonstrate that we continue to be focused on improving the game. That sure is a hell lot of optimism that I don't share, but that's what the devs said. Which brings us to today's news. My confidence in the game further diminishes as content that was supposed to come this year, this month in fact, has been delayed, which is not great for a game that's in desperate need of higher quality, higher quantity, and higher variety of content. The following information was relayed by Crystal Dynamics themselves on the official Marvel's Avengers website. They published a blog post on October 15 whose headline reads, "Marvel's Avengers State of the Game Update." So it says right here that they recognize that Marvel's Avengers had a rough launch. It reads, "Marvel's Avengers launch was not without turbulence, you don't say. And we recognize that a number of issues detracted from your enjoyment of the game. This does not align with Crystal Dynamics' values of craftsmanship, and for that, we sincerely apologize." Here's the thing, Crystal Dynamics, they're actually good developers. The Tomb Raider games that they made, I really enjoy. So it really did come as a surprise when I realized just what a lackluster experience Marvel's Avengers was, a Crystal Dynamics title. But the thing is, they're not all that experienced with live service games, and no doubt there was a lot of publisher influence in making this a monetizable game and launching it as soon as possible rather than waiting until it was ready to be launched. History repeats itself with yet another game publisher who cannot learn from the follies of past roughly launched live services. Now, to try to make up for the rough launch, they did give players a bunch of free currency, so 1,500 credits, 7,000 units, 250 upgrade modules, 20 DNA keys, and the credits are enough for a legendary skin and nameplate from the marketplace. The cosmetics in the marketplace, by the way, most of them are not all that compelling. They're exorbitantly priced. The microtransactions in this game are just really piss poor. This also feels like a way to lure players into the marketplace in the hopes that they'll keep spending more money on a game that isn't even currently worth the base price. But more relevant to this video is this section of the blog post, which you'll find if you scroll down, titled "Future Marvel's Avengers Content." And here's where they talk about some of the delays that they've had to make. So it states, "Moving forward, we intend to have a fixed, predictable patching cycle to ensure all new content meets both our and your high standards and has time for extensive internal testing. We know fans are hungry for new content, but delivering a fun experience is our priority. Too bad that wasn't a priority prior to launch." The statement continues, "With this in mind, we have decided to push Kate Bishop's operation launch back a bit, out of October. We're sorry for this slight delay, but we're dedicated as a team to quality first." It's hard to take the quality first statement seriously when you consider the state that Marvel's Avengers launched in. Also worth noting is that they don't provide a window for Kate Bishop's operation launch and the character release. They just say it's out of October, and they say a slight delay, so possibly suggesting a November launch. It's hard to say, but when it does launch, it is apparently going to have new story content, so this is for fans who want to know what's next in the story. And there's mention here of how the story picks up right after the conclusion of the Reassemble campaign. Clint Barton, Hawkeye, was supposed to arrive shortly after, but that has also been delayed. It reads right here, then comes Clint, we'll have more information on him later, and looking into 2021, our biggest Avengers Initiative edition yet will introduce a new hero, region, and narrative arc. So both of these characters were supposed to launch in quick succession of each other. Now we're seeing the roadmap that they've previously laid out be derailed. Sure sounds like a familiar story. Anthem experienced something similar where they promised all of these things, a roadmap of compelling content coming out at a consistent stream. All of that got derailed because the developers had to focus on fixing the game, which detracted from the creation of new content that would expand upon the game. We're seeing all of the same signs with Marvel's Avengers. But that's not all. Another delay is the next-gen versions of the game. It was announced in the blog post that, quote, we have also made the decision to shift our PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series XS launch to next year to ensure that we give our team the time to deliver a next-gen experience showcasing all that this game is meant to be. More details to come. So they're delaying a bunch of things during a time when the game is undergoing serious issues, as again developers are distracted by the unpolished nature of the game and are unable to make forward progress because they're so busy getting to the starting line rather than starting from the starting line and going beyond that. Now, at the very end of this blog post, they do talk about the conditions that they've had to work in as a result of the pandemic that's been plaguing the world. So I can definitely sympathize with the fact that 2020 in general has just been a challenging year. Certainly has been for game developers who've had to work remotely, which has presented certain challenges in games development cycles. But, that's still no excuse for how Marvel's Avengers launched, and it may not even be the developer's fault. It may have been publisher's mandate to just get the game out, but it doesn't change the fact that the game's being sold to paying customers, and the product is not living up to the hype. It is not living up to the standards that should be there for any product's launch. Now, Marvel's Avengers did sell gangbusters, so according to NPD data, Marvel's Avengers was the best-selling title of September. Launch month, dollar sales of Marvel's Avengers were the second highest for any superhero game in US history, trailing only behind Marvel's Spider-Man, which is insane when you consider that Marvel's Spider-Man is a PS4 exclusive title and Marvel's Avengers still somehow came short of that, but still Marvel's Avengers sold well enough. It probably made its money back, but what the publisher is looking for isn't short-term sales. They're looking for long-term recurrent monetization. That's what they were hoping Marvel's Avengers would be, something that would keep generating cash long after its launch, and clearly that endeavor isn't panning out, judging by the diminishing player base, getting as low as 688 players. Way down into the triple digits, which is just not normal for a thriving live service game, and is certainly unusual for a game that carries the ever-popular Avengers IP name. The fact that an Avengers game is only drawing in 2,000 players on PC on average, with lows as much as 688, that's just a sad state of affairs. Players are clearly losing confidence in the game, and it certainly won't help that significant content was just delayed. Again, it's just Anthem all over again. Developers expressing positivity and confidence about their title, while slowly but surely you start seeing delays and derailment and a player base that just can't hold out anymore, that want to spend their time doing something more fun, something better than playing a game that just feels uninspired and doesn't have the technical polish or the quality, quantity, and variety of content to justify its asking price. You may recall that with Anthem, they made promises of how the Cataclysm would be this major content update that would bolster the game and breathe new life to it. Not only was that content delayed, but when it did launch, it was ultimately a whole lot of nothing. It was certainly not compelling enough to revive Anthem. And now Marvel's Avengers is undergoing a similar pattern of delaying this content that's supposed to be this huge update that will apparently draw players back in. And whether it is something that will bolster the game so much that it will bring players back is something that remains to be seen. But I don't get the sense that the Kate Bishop and Hawkeye DLC will fundamentally change the game and fundamentally fix the flaws that are inherent to the foundation of the title. It's just such a generic idea what they came up with. I don't see a way for them to make it feel fresh and exciting to a degree that it'll draw a bunch of players back in when there's so many other live services out there that do a better job with loot, with gameplay, with the technical polish. They're just better games out there, and people have limited time, and many of them are not intending to waste that time with a game that shipped in a way that showed it clearly didn't value the customer's money and time. Only time will tell if Crystal Dynamics manages to release enough compelling content and enough updates that the game will start drawing interest again and will make some kind of comeback. But for now, yeah, I'm not feeling optimistic about the title, nor do I feel excited to delve back into this game that, for the most part, just bores the hell out of me. But that's just one man's take. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on the current state of Marvel's Avengers and what you think will happen with the game's future. Drop a comment, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.